Hotep. I greet you with blessings of peace, love, and prosperity. I'm not going to take a long time because I don't want you to miss anything. You have here today a divine reflection of yourselves and all your possibilities. He's going to share his memoir with a message, and you're going to be elevated into seeing the essence of who you are. So, see your brilliance, because M.K. Asante is here. He is a professor of English and filmmaking. He is a filmmaker and author. He is a divine reflection of you. M.K. Asante.
What's going on? How y'all doing? It's good. Mesa? What's up, man? What's poppin', baby? What's good, man? Good to see you again. I don't know what's up, man? But anyway, it's good to see everybody. I'm M.K. Asante. I'm from Philly. So it's a long way out here, but it's good to be out here. Good to see y'all. Before I start, I want to thank Professor Starla Lewis for bringing me here and representing. Where's she at? Where's she at? Oh, she left. But I want to also thank Takima for bringing me here. I want to thank all of the daughters for helping me out while I've been here. Ishe, Aisha, Shahidi. I had to say that real fast because, you know. But thank y'all for showing love, being my family while I'm out here. I want to talk a little bit about Buck, about my journey, my story, where I come from, and kind of where I am now, just kind of give you a trajectory of my life. When you first see Buck, the first thing you think of probably is the title, right? Because it hits you in the face, like Buck. What is Buck? Young Buck, Buck Wild, Buck Shops, Buck Town, Slave Buck, Black Buck, Make Buck, Buck Now. I wanted a title that would encapsulate all of the feelings that I had about my life, my journey. I came up with one word. He's going to have an interesting time today. It's gonna be I came up with one word that pretty much encapsulated my life, and that was Buck. You know what I mean? Because I was a young buck. I went buck wild. I was dodging buck shots in a buck town. Slave buck, black buck, those are references to racism that we had to experience every day. You know what I mean? When they tell you racism is over, don't believe that bullshit. We had to experience that shit every day. You know what I'm saying? So buck, you know, bucktown, slave buck, black buck, make buck. Had to learn how to make money in this crazy environment, right? You know, learn how to be an entrepreneur. Learn about classism and money and economics and all that. And then the whole notion of Buck Now, which I'm going to come back to in a little bit. How many people read Buck? Okay, so a few people. Well, let me share a little bit about how the book is written and about the story. Buck starts when I'm 13. And I didn't want to write a memoir where it was like, I look back on my life and I'm like, oh, this is what I used to be Buck Wild back in the day. You know what I'm saying? I didn't want to do that bullshit. You know, I wanted to do something that was authentic to who I was, who I am. And so I wrote it in the first person present tense. That means when you read the book, it's like it's me in the moment, right? You get to see things as I saw things. You get to experience things as I experienced them. And you get to experience that moment. So I'm going to just give you a little bit of taste of Buck. This is the opening of Buck. The fall in Philadelphia. Outside is the color of cornbread and blood. Change hangs in the air like the sneaks on the live wires behind my crib. Me and my big brother Uzi in the kitchen. He's rolling a blunt on top of the source. The one with Tyson on the cover, rocking a kufi, ice grilling through the gloss. Yo, my brother Uzi can roll a blunt with his eyes closed. He cracks, splits, and busts. He tells me, yo, the rawest crews in Philly are all three letters. I read the cover through the tobacco guts and weed flakes. The rebirth of Mike Tyson. I'm not good, I'm not bad, I'm just trying to survive in this world. Awaken crews in a rude fashion on their ass like Mike Tyson at a beauty pageant. Okay, so that was a random rap lyric, right? And throughout the book, you get these random lyrics that just jump out at you, right? And you don't really know all the time where they come from. Well, I'm going to explain it. You know, hip-hop was the soundtrack to my life. Hip-hop is the soundtrack to this book. So as you read, these lyrics that come up, and they always correspond with what's happening in the story, right? They always correspond to my life in some way. That particular lyric, that's the first time that you see a lyric in the book, and I explain it immediately what's going on. I say, I do this. I spit lyrics to songs under my breath all day, every day. The bars just jump out of me no matter where I am or what I'm doing. It's like I got hip-hop Tourette's. And hip-hop Tourette's is like what I call anybody who you walking to class, you walking down the street, you walking wherever, and you just like spit a lyric, you know what I'm saying? I mean, how many people got hip-hop Tourette's? Yeah, I mean, I know there's more people than that have hip-hop Tourette's. I mean, that's the thing about repetition in music, right? I mean, it's in your head, like you can't really get it out. It's not really a choice. That's just in your head. Sometimes you don't even know why you're singing a certain song. You heard that shit on the radio and you're just singing it, right? So anyway, hip-hop Tourette's is what I have throughout the book, and it helps you understand what I'm talking about in the book. It also gives you like a time reference, because I don't really talk about, because I'm telling the story as a 14-year-old, as a 15-year-old, a 16-year-old, I don't actually tell you what date it is, you know what I mean? So you have to really keep up with the lyrics, because there's always a date on the lyrics. You can keep up with the chronology of the book through the lyrics, so that's really a way to keep time as well. I also wanted to introduce people to my world, where I come from, the language of Philadelphia. You know what I'm saying? So in this opening scene, my brother, he's rolling this blunt. How many people been to Philly? Show of hands. Okay. How many people from Philly? Okay, that's what's up. So in this opening scene, my brother rolls this blunt, right? And I say, he folds, rolls, and tucks. Another perfect blunt. John looks like a paintbrush. Now, John is a Philadelphia word, right? And I'm going to explain what it is. John can mean anything. Person, place, or thing. Sometimes if we're telling a story and we don't want people to know what we're talking about, we'll plug John in for everything. Yo, the other day I was at the John around the corner with the young John from down the street, right? We get to the John, right? And the boy at the door all on his John, not knowing I had that John on me. Yo, man, it was about to be on in that John. So John is like, you know, it's a fill-all. You could use it for anything. You could just plug John in, you know what I'm saying? And it's such a contextual word. If you're not supposed to be in a conversation, then you're not gonna know what we're talking about. You know what I mean? Like, yo, what's the John? You got the John? What's the John? What's the John? You know what I'm saying? So you're not really supposed to be listening, and so you know that's how we talk. And that it's funny. Like, it's interesting. As I studied language and etymology and words, it's interesting to kind of find out where certain things come from in language, right? So when we hear especially black language, right? A lot of times we don't realize that, during slavery, right, or before slavery, black people got captured from Africa, kidnapped, right, and they got brought to America. Now, when they captured us in Africa, we weren't all the same religion, we weren't all the same, we didn't speak the same languages, lots of different ethnic groups within Africa. I've been to over 40 countries, and I've been to probably 15 countries or more in Africa, you know what I mean? I was just in Nigeria. In Nigeria, they speak over 300 languages in that country alone, you know what I'm saying? So when you think about the slave trade and them capturing all these people of African descent, we didn't all speak the same language, you know what I'm saying? I might have spoke Tree, you spoke Hausa, you spoke Fulani, you spoke another language, you know what I'm saying? So we all got these different languages, but yet we come to America and we have to learn the same language, which is English, right? But there's a fundamental problem, of course, right? The same motherfuckers that's teaching us English is the same motherfuckers that got us in the chains. So you're learning the language of your oppressor. The oppressor is teaching you language, and the only reason why the oppressor is really teaching you the language is so they can tell you what the fuck to do. Basically, right? So you're in a kind of you're in a conundrum here. You know what I'm saying? Like, damn, I'm learning this language, but how am I going to communicate with you? How am I going to communicate with you when this language is oppressive, right? So what happens is you get this coded language, right? And so, you can have a situation back in the day on a plantation where, it could be some people who are enslaved, right? Some black enslaved people. And it could be like some slave masters out, in the outskirts around. You don't want them to hear what you're talking about. So somebody can say, hey, did you hear about MK? And they say, what? They say, MK escaped the plantation. And then they say, oh, MK escaped the plantation? That's a bad nigga. Now, the white person, the slave master, hears that. he's gonna say, yeah, that's a bad nigga because he's famous. Right? But everybody else knows, like, if you really rock with me, you know what I mean? You know that when you say he's a bad nigga, he's really that boy. He's really a great nigga, you know what I'm saying? He's really the man. Like, he's the shit, you know what I'm saying? So, but that language is so important, right? You take a word that means bad, but you flip it. We call that freaking it, right? We freak the language in a way so it's like, and then as soon as it's like, I wonder how he's doing. I wish I could understand. I was very intrigued to know. But, you know, it's like, that's that code, right? And as soon as the dude figures out, the slave master figures out that, you know, when these guys say bad, they really mean good, then we don't say that anymore. We flip the language and we got some new slang or something like that. So when you see words like John, you know, it's really, it's birthed out of that. You know what I mean? It's birthed out of basically, and when you look at that, that's survival. That's survival. How are you going to survive, right, in an oppressive condition? How are you going to escape and get freedom when this language is so oppressive? So you have to freak the language, and that's what we do when we say John, or, you know what I mean, or whatever. So I want to talk about my brother, and because this story is, I said memoir is young buck, buck wild, buck shots, buck town, slave buck, black buck, make buck, buck now. But there is a buck that I haven't talked about yet, and that is buck naked. Buck naked, you know what I'm saying? You know, remember when Freddie Mac used to say that? Buck naked. But you know, like, buck naked is when you write a memoir, you're like exposing yourself. You know what I'm saying? It's like taking off all your, you know what I mean, just chilling. It's letting everybody see everything, you know what I'm saying? It's letting it all hang out because a lot of things that, you know, you might not want people to see or you might be ashamed of or, you know, whatever, people can see everything in a memoir. So this memoir is very personal. It deals with my family. One of the biggest people in my life is my brother. And his name is Uzi. I'll tell you a little bit about Uzi. Uzi is the color of walnuts and has a long, sharp face like the African mask my dad hangs up everywhere. His name is Daoud. My parents call him Daoudi, but the hood calls him Uzi. He's got a bunch of other names too, like some superheroes. Uwap, Daoud, Uzito, Wap the Culture, Cool D, Pinch P, Big Oo, Barkalark, Drop the Miss Brown, Big Sly, and Still to Kill. Those are my brother's names, right? So in this opening scene of the book, my brother's best friend comes and he has a Johnny. A Johnny is a stolen car in Philly, right? And he's like, yo, Uwap, we got a Johnny, come on, you down the road? And my brother's like 17 at the time, and my brother thinks it's a great idea. He's like, yeah, of course. I'm like 13. I think it's a great idea too. So I'm like, you know, I'm trying to roll too. And this is how it always goes. Me following Uzi in everything, everywhere, like his little black Jan Sport. Covered in marks a lot, strapped tight to his back, koala style. Anywhere, any place. He does it, I do it. He tries it, fuck it, I'm trying it. He can't shit, why can't I? Sometimes I even duck like Uzi under doorways, even though he's way taller, and I don't even need to duck. I follow him to sweaty Badlands house parties that always end in crazy shirtless rumbles with everybody hollering, north side in the middle of the street. To Broad and Rockland to cop dime bags from one of the dusty bodegas with nothing but baking soda and expired Bisquick on the shelves. To freestyle ciphers on South Street that the nut-ass police always break up for no reason. To crack on Jones getting off the L at 69th Street like, yo, Jordan, let me holler at you for a minute. To scale the fence to watch sad-eyed the Jordan the street ball hoop at 16th and Susquehanna. To skate the ledges and steps at Love Park till we get chased away by the cops. To bomb the Orange Line subway with Sharpies and kiwi polish sticks. And now, to joyride through Philly in a stolen wheel. Being with Uzi makes me feel invincible. Like nothing bad can happen to us. Like nothing and nobody can hurt us. I feel unfuckwittable. Y'all ever felt unfuckwittable? Huh? Show of hands. Yeah, that's what's up. It's a good feeling, you know? And whenever I'm with my brother, you know, even to this day, I still feel unfuckwittable being with him. You know, he's a hero to me. And so in this opening scene, my brother doesn't let me go steal the car. He goes, like, 10, 15 minutes later, they come running back in the crib with like 20 cops behind them. Cops busting the door. And it's really like the beginning of the end for my family. Everything changes after that moment. My brother gets locked up, and he eventually gets sent away to Arizona, where he gets locked up again and really gets into real trouble out there. And so it's really like my family dynamic changed a lot after that. You know, my brother and my father already had a very tenuous, turbulent relationship. You know, they didn't really rock with each other. You know what I mean? Me and my brother don't have the same father, and they never really rocked with each other. I'll read you a little bit from kind of my pops and my brothers. You know, my papa is an Afrocentrist, right? My pop was always preaching Afrocentricity, and that's something that we kind of grew up in a house full of Afrocentricity, right? So I use a lot of rap lyrics from that, right? I say my third eye is my rail on this Ella thought with Afrocentric stamps. I'm mailing thoughts. That's from Common, 1996, right? I say Pops was always preaching Afrocentricity. He was a Church of Christ minister way back when. One of those preachers, and he still sounds like he's in the pulpit when he talks about black people, white people, and the struggle, right? I say, hit the earth like a comet, invasion. Nas is like the Afrocentric Asian, half man,
half amazing.
You know what I mean? Our crib is mad Afrocentric. Naked African statues standing everywhere, ritual mass ice grilling down from the walls, portraits of Martin, Malcolm, Harriet, from the wallpaper to the plates. Everything in our crib is stamped with Africa. Even my favorite porn series, My Baby Got Back, is made by a company called Afrocentric Productions. Yo, I ain't even finished yet. Beauties that give up the booty, the box under my bed says. Mr. Marcus, Lexington Steele, and loudmouth Wesley Pipes nailing Nubian queens like Janet Jackson, Obsession, Midori, Monique, and Lacey Duvall in doggy style, reverse cowgirl, and missionary. I tell my pops about the other Afrocentrics, and he's disgusted. Say what? But he's the one who's always talking about how black people should own their own stores, have our own banks, our own schools. Shouldn't we have our own porn studios too? I mean, damn, what's more Afrocentric than black pussy? Uzi doesn't really get down with Afrocentricity. I think he's still mad about the whole Star Wars thing from when we were little. Uzi used to love Star Wars, and he kept begging my parents for a Luke Skywalker action figure. Finally, my pops took him to Toys R Us. They came back. Uzi was heated. He got me Lando Calrissian. Who? I said, exactly. Nobody knows who he is. Lando Calrissian. Yo, who that? I said, fucking Billy D. Williams. Black dude. No gun, no weapon, no special powers, and he talks like he's in a goddamn Coke 45 commercial. Uzi lowers his voice. The power of Coke 45 works every time. Yo, they didn't have Luke, I asked? Yo, they had everybody. Luke, Obi-Wan, Han Solo, but Dad wouldn't get them because they're white. So, you know, early on, this is very early on in the book, I just talk about how, you know, my parents had this very intellectual, sophisticated view of black people in the world and Africa. But for a kid, you know, like my brother just wanted this Luke Skywalker, you don't really understand all that. And he's just like, yo, like Lando Calrissian, he just came in Lando Calrissian, like, you know what I mean? And so that was the kind of beginning of, I think, my brother's and my father's contentious relationship. When my brother got locked up, my father's attitude was basically like, my pop always told us, like, I got no bail money. If you get locked up, you just on your own. Like, so my pop's thing was just, you're on your own. My mom's thing was, we got to help him. We got to do everything we can to get him out the system. You know, he was unfairly prosecuted and all this stuff. So that became like a very a source of divide in my family. And so very early on in the book, what happens is my brother gets locked up. My mom really breaks down. My mom is this really strong woman from Brooklyn, New York. She's been through a lot in her life, and she also has mental health issues, right? And so she's severely depressed, became suicidal, and was institutionalized, right? Several times over the course of this story. She's institutionalized, put in a mental hospital, and so my brother's institutionalized in prison. My mom gets institutionalized, and my dad ends up leaving, and he moves to outside of Philadelphia, and my parents split up. And so I'm like 13, and hence the name Buck of the book, because without really the people that were like major in my life there, I really gravitated toward a lot of other forces, you know what I mean? So I'm going to introduce you guys to 10 G's. I walk up to the corner of 10 G's, where all the Uzi's boys chill. They stand where they always stand, between the liquor store and the corner store, next to the Fern Rock Apartments fence, under the train tracks, and across the street from Rocksteady. This bug dude who sits on a crate all day with a broken radio, rocking his head back and forth to a beat no one else can hear. My mom calls them the corner boy, because they're always out there, posted like guards at a checkpoint. They hug the block, huddled and hustle, eyeing everything and everyone, everywhere, every day. And so, these are my brother's friends. They're like, I'm 13, 14, they're like 17, 18, 19, 20. They sell guns, they sell drugs, they're hustlers, you know. They are my role models, right? My brother's locked up, and they really fulfilled a lot of the big brother that I was looking for, the void that became so apparent. They filled that void, you know. But unlike they were different than my brother. In the opening scene, you know, my brother, he doesn't let me steal the car, right? I try to go with my brother to steal the car. He's like, nah, you gotta stay here. Because my brother always looked out for me, right? He didn't want me to get in trouble and all that stuff, right? The corner boys were a little bit different. They were the ones telling me, yo, go steal the car. You know what I mean? They were the ones pushing me out there in a way that my brother would never push me out there. My brother was locked up at the time in Arizona. And so, you know, they really, they exposed me to a lot of different things. So one of the things about this book is I didn't want to write a book that was watered down. I felt like, damn, if I write a book that's watered down, there's really no point in writing it. I only could write this book the way that it happened, the way that I really feel, the way that, you know, the way that the language, everything had to be authentic. So a lot of this book, you know, after a lot of these things happen, you really get like a raw experience of what I went through, you know what I mean? Some really raw scenes, some things, you'll be reading like, damn, that really, like, you know, it'll definitely, you know, it'll keep you up. And I wanted to write it that way because that was authentic, that was really what happened. And so a lot of the book deals with kind of the darkness. It's crazy, I'm a tenured professor at Morgan State University. I've been a professor for a long time now, but it's crazy because coming up, I got kicked out of every school that I went to, you know what I mean, in Philly. And it was just like school after school after school, being kicked out of, you know, just really like, I was a corner boy, doing all types of stuff, getting all types of trouble, and so it's interesting kind of to see that trajectory and how things kind of turned out. I lost a lot of people in this book that you'll read about. I lost a lot of them to the streets. My best friend was murdered, his name is Amir. He was murdered in my presence, and so I saw a lot of like pain and death and destruction and things like that. We have a soundtrack to this book that kind of accompanies it, you know, where we talk about things and I kind of tell my story in a different way, you know. MK from the City of the Fresh Prince, where they carried him Wessons and Will Smith. This is real shit, gotta deal with. Tripe, broken bodies under street lights. Middle of the night, we still can't get right. Cause I got vision, but we lost sight. Like how I had a best friend, but he lost life. Senseless, cause niggas was scentless, right? For destruction. So seductive, we got half the parts, but no instructions. So we look the part, but lack substance. While my raps tap hearts like your favorite cousin, and BuzzFeed even said my buzz was buzzing. I did what the pundit said I wasn't. Repudiated and repugnant. Yeah. And I write for young bucks in the ghetto. And I write for young bucks in the ghetto. Illustrating life on a higher level. Teach them how not to settle through the treble. Problem with authority, I always been a rebel. Rose from concrete, always been a pedal. Saying fuck fear and doubt, always been the devil. Back when my own squad was like whatever. I never doubted the devil's the better my cheddar. Mind clouded on whatever, whenever, whoever. Young boy, holy cow, tough as leather. Took your time with it easy, sang Ella. Hotel Fitzgerald, nigga, the views is stellar. Be the Fitzgerald, and knowing I'm better than the veterans. MK Letterman, dopamine like instant messaging. I'm losing them, let me talk about sex again. How am I doing long stamina next again? But that new Jim Crow got my next of kin. Oscar, Trayvon, they trying to next the kid. Black, fly, handsome, intelligent, estrogen pressed to get next to him, but I'm focused like I be on Dexedrine, plus nuts. I ain't take my medicine. Q&A. But yeah, so we got a soundtrack that integrates like, you know, lyrics and stuff like that and music into the book because, like I said, the book is very lyrical, it's musical. I want to talk about some of the dramatic changes that happened in my life, you know, because when you read the book, there are a lot of times people that I talk to have read the book. The book has been on the bestseller list in 2014 and 2015. And so people I talk to all around the country, they read the book and they say things like, man, you know, I was reading the book and I didn't know if you were going to make it, you know. There's a lot of times where I didn't even know if I was going to make it. And the real question is, well, what happened? What changed? And I think there's a lot of different things in my life that kind of conspired together to create this situation and this environment right now. One of the things, like I said, is kind of seeing the different paths that people in my life took, my brother and my friends, and just kind of seeing where that led. But that wasn't enough. Also, you know, having people, this book is about education. And when I say it's about education, I don't mean school. It's about education, real education, you know? It's about miseducation, it's about re-education, it's about street education, and it's about self-education. It's also about the difference and the distance between school and education. You know what I mean? Because sometimes we think school and education is the same thing, but it's really not. You can get educated in school if you're lucky enough to have a professor, you know, like this, but otherwise, you know, education is something that's happening 24/7, 365, you know what I mean? And I believe that the whole world is a university, you know, and there's professors along the way. Everywhere there could be a professor. They don't even have to look like professors. The corner boys were professors. Because, you know, every professor you have isn't good, as you know. You know what I mean? You probably have a lot of professors that aren't, you know, so it's like every professor isn't going to be the best professor. Sometimes a professor will teach you what not to do, you know what I'm saying? And so this book is really about my education, my unorthodox education, non-traditional education, all these different places I got knowledge and wisdom from. There was a homeless dude one day walking down the street, and he asked me, he was like, young man, do you know what soul is? And I told him, I said, Soul Train, you know? About the Soul Train line. And he said, no, soul is the graceful survival against impossible circumstances. You know, so that dude right there is a professor on the street. He's a homeless man, you know? But he was a professor. He gave me that knowledge. I ain't have to pay no tuition. None, you know what I'm saying? No loans, none of that. You know what I mean? Just free knowledge. And so this is really what this book is about. You know, it's about how I got all this different wisdom and education from all these different places. But one of the interesting things that happened is, like I said, I got kicked out of every school I went to. And I ended up in this alternative school. And I'll tell you how I got there. I drove, me and my homie was on the run, had an APB out on him in Philly. We drove to Texas. That was our plan. I was like, yo, let's go to Texas. I'm like 16, he's like 15. So we drive to Texas 25 hours straight. Because I had a cousin who lived in Fort Worth. My cousin was crazy. You'll read about him in here. You know, it was like the worst place you could really go. Like, he was just, you know, he was one of those older cousins that just made shit even worse, right? So, but I love him, that's my dude. But you know what I mean? Like, he just, you know, he had good intentions, but, you know, it's the world we live in. So, anyway, we go to Texas to stay with him, of all people, you know, and my mom ends up ODing. Yo, a couple of things, let me backtrack. A couple of things I do in this book that you should know about. One of the things I do in the book that's really important to me is perspective, right? This book isn't just written from my perspective. My mom used to keep a diary, and in her diary, she would write the most personal details about her life, right? She would write about me, her brother, my father, my brother, her life, pain, her mother, all these things, personal things, her weight. And throughout my life, during this period, me and my mom didn't communicate well. We didn't talk. We didn't have conversations. We didn't sit down and talk about my day or her day. My mom was in like a comatose state. She was on her medications and was just gone. So we didn't even get a chance to talk. But she would write in this journal. That was like her solace. And so what I used to do when I was a kid is I would read my mom's journal behind her back. I would sneak and I would read it. So in this book, I have my mom's authentic, real journal entries from this time period, talking about all these different things. I'll give you an example of one of the journal entries, just so you can hear like the voice that it's written in and you know, what kind of things she's talking about. So this is my mom. This is the first journal entry, diary entry I ever read from my mom. And she always wrote, both my parents changed their names, and she always would write to her former name, which was Carol. So she would say, "Dear Carol." She would always start like that. So my mom says, "Dear Carol, I never took drugs, even though they were all around me. I don't really count smoking weed as a drug, neither do I." but Bob is her former husband. But Bob was a heroin addict, and my brother Jabbar has been a crack addict on and off, so I do no drugs. But the drugs prescribed for my depression are a different story. They serve the same purpose as crack or heroin, a way of escaping, of turning away from the pain, and an excuse to leave the planet momentarily. My drugs are legal, but the result, the high, feels the same. It doesn't make much sense to me that a doctor could know what medicine to give someone for depression anyway. Depression is so specific, so historical, and so particular. How could a pill deal with any of that? They don't. All they do is make the time go by, dulling my senses and making me sleep. Taking my meds is like putting a sign on my door that says, "Unavailable." It works. The only person to ignore the sign is Malo. I'm Malo, by the way. Only person to ignore the sign is Malo. At least when he was younger, he ignored the sign. But now, as a teenager, he keeps his distance and tells other people, "Mom don't feel well." Malo is staring at a woman who doesn't seem herself. It's not that I'm not myself, but I've buried myself so that I don't feel any pain. Daudi doesn't get it, and it makes him angry. Malo accepts it, even if he doesn't get it. I'm in my bedroom, either in my bed or in my chair, but always out of commission. I'm in a fog, and I prefer it that way. There are moments when I can function, but the point is, I don't want to function. I want no part of this life. The pills aid my escape. Sometimes I take more than I'm supposed to. No one knows what I'm taking, just the doctor. I keep stockpiles and stockpiles, always making allowances for that one day I might need to permanently leave. Leaving has been on my mind most of my life. My first attempt at suicide was at 12. And so she goes on and on and on about suicide and her life. And so that's the first journal entry I ever read from my mom. And then I became addicted to reading her journal all the time and finding out where she was and what she was thinking about and how all this stuff made sense. And it didn't make sense to me, you know, but it was stuff that I read. And so what I did in the book is I integrated her journal entry so that you could kind of hear from a different perspective what was going on in my life and in my world, you know. I also integrated my brother's letters from prison. My brother, you know, my brother was in Arizona, and at first, before he got locked up, he was just writing me letters from Arizona, you know, and talking about the West Coast. And I integrated his letters because you really get to see his coming of age, his growth while he's in jail. And just kind of like, I mean, you guys want to hear a letter from my brother? Yeah. I don't usually read his letters. I don't know why. No reason, but we were just talking about him, and I feel the need to bring him in the room. So this is my brother's first letter from Arizona before he got locked up. And so he wrote me, he says, "Malo, what's up, kid? Damn, it's been a minute since we spoke, yo. Uncle Jabbar kicked me out." So he's 17 years old in Arizona. "Uncle Jabbar kicked me out. Fuck him, he's a hater. He's jealous. He's jealous of some shit. He's trying to be my pop, but I don't have a pop. My journey equals my pop. My mistakes equals my beatings. My personal triumphs equals my pat on the head. I'm good though. I always got a chick or 2 or 5 to lay up with for a day or 2, and then I'm on to the next. Yo, I wish you could be out here, man. You should see this shit. A Philly nigga in AZ doing rap shows, smutting these coke, snorting Becky's and Susie's in the $2,000 a month trust fund baby condo flop houses. This shit is wild. Just stay there for like a week or 2, partying, binging. It's nuts. he says, my crew is Nam, New Age militia, Nubian apocalyptic military, niggas, Anglos, and Mexicans, nines and max, narcotics and money, you know. We just be partying, getting money, rumbling, getting all types of shit. But overall, just having a good-ass time in the short-ass life we got, dog. Arizona is a gun state, so you can buy ratchets in the pawn shop, yo. Everybody's strapped. I like carrying my AP9. It's like a newer version of the bum-ass Tech 9. John is vicious. Get down and lay down. But I'm not trying to hurt nobody, Milo. But these niggas out here be tripping. They gangbanging shit. I gotta protect myself, because I'm all I got. I'm still out here alone, though. I feel like an orphan. It seems like all my boys come from some kind of mysterious background. No family, no roots. I'm a nomadic addict merchant. Nam. That's why we call ourselves a fam. Nam family. A band of brothers. And for real, Milo, I'm in no rush to come home. I want to see you, be around you, but other than that, I might not ever come back to Philly. I'm finally free, yo. I don't have to live up to my parents, my potential, nothing. Does that sound fucked up? It's not. Look at all the first-round draft picks in the NFL, NBA that turned into busts. You know why? Expectation before acclamation. Trying to live up to some shit they wasn't even comfortable with yet. You know what I mean? Look, man, take care of Mom. I know she's probably going through it. She's a quiet screamer. She won't tell me the real deal, so just look out for her. Play the leeches in her life close. Make them uncomfortable. Make sure Dad treats you with respect. And if you don't, show him none. None. New Age militia, new Asante man. So that was my brother's first letter from Arizona. And after that, like very shortly after that, a week after that, he got locked up and spent the rest of this book. So this is on page 32. He spent the rest of the book, the rest of my teenage life, locked up, incarcerated. So all the rest of my brother's letters, you see an evolution in his thinking and kind of where he is as he gets to be able to reflect on his life from jail. So I integrated all these different perspectives into the book because I didn't want you to just hear my perspective. I wanted you to get all these different perspectives in the book. So fast forward. I'm in Texas with my cousin, wilding out, and I get a phone call that my mom has OD'd in Philadelphia. So I get back in the car with my boy, Jordan, and we drive back up to Texas. We drive back up to Philly, another 25 hours straight. We get pulled over in Virginia. My boy gets arrested, and he's gone, right? He actually called me just a few minutes ago from jail. So he's not in jail for the same thing, but you know, that's what happened with his life, right? And so this was on the way back up to Philly. I get to the hospital. My mom has all these tubes inside of her, electronic machines beeping and going off and all this stuff. The doctor tells me that she almost died, she's very close to death, but that she's, you know, alive. I stayed in the hospital for like 2 days with my mom, and the first day was just sitting there with her, you know, and just watching her and putting the little cues on her lips and all that stuff. And then the next day, we actually started talking. And it was the first time that me and my mom had a real conversation in a long time. Probably the first time we ever really had a real conversation, because now I was older, she was, you know, we were at that place where we could talk. And one of the things she kept telling me was just like, education is your passport to the future, she told me. And she said, you have to go to school. At this point, I wasn't in school. I got kicked out of a school called Fells, which was like one of the worst schools in Philly. And so after you get kicked out of Fells, you don't go to another school. Like, there's no school. So I was just hanging out, chilling. My mom was, you gotta go to school. And my rebuttal at the time was, yo, Ma, I would go to school, but no school would take me. I got kicked out of Fells, you know what I'm saying? And my mom said, well, what about if I found a school that would take you? Now, I didn't think that shit was gonna happen. So I was like, sure. You know what I mean? If you found a school that would take me, of course I would go. But I was really betting that she wouldn't find a school, you know what I mean? Because my record at the time wasn't good. So my mom gets out the hospital. A couple weeks later, of course, you know, I told you she's from Brooklyn. She's very resourceful. She came from nothing, made something of her. So she found a school, of course, that would take me in Philadelphia. And she told me, I found a school that would take you. But I just want to tell you, before you go, it's an alternative school. I was like, all right, cool, whatever, alternative school, whatever. So, you know, some of the schools I went to, and I write about this book is also kind of, in some ways, an indictment on the educational system, you know, or at least raises awareness about the education. Some of the schools I went to look like prisons. Why did they look like prisons? Because they were pipeline schools. What is a pipeline school? It's a school that prepares you for prison. It's a school to prison pipeline, right? There's metal detectors, there's guards. There was a detention center. I'm talking about a holding cell. A holding cell with real police officers, Philadelphia police officers, in the basement of my school. This is a pipeline school. These are schools that are preparing you for jail, right? Everything about them. There's no learning going on. So I write about those schools, right? Other schools I went to look like factories, right? Where it was just about rote memorization and regurgitation. I'm going to just write a whole bunch of stuff on the board. You copy it, spit it back to me, and somehow we think that's learning. Somehow we think that's going to advance our lives and make us critical thinkers, and somehow we're going to succeed in the world because we know how to copy shit. You know what I mean? And so I went to schools like that. So some of the schools I went to look like prisons. Some of them look like factories. This alternative John, you know what John means. This alternative John looked like a gingerbread house. It looked like a straight up gingerbread house. And I get there or whatever, and I'm watching these kids walk in, and I'm just like, I'm tripping, because these are the weirdest group of people I've ever seen in my life. Like, this school was just extra weird, and I didn't even know how to take it. I'm watching this, and I'm just like, yo, these kids are just, they look like out of a, you know that movie, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest? It was like the teenage version of that. These kids were like, so I'm, you know, they got one kid, he's banging his head against the wall, and he's using his blood to make a painting. It's his own blood in his head. So I'm like, hold up. Let me get this right. I said, this is an alternative school. I said, I'm not this damn alternative. Send me back to the pub. You know what I mean? I was really ready to just go back to the pub. Like, I'm not with all this. But like I said, I couldn't go back to the pub. So I'm in this real weird school, and I'm not feeling it. I haven't done schoolwork in a long time. I'm not into school. At this point, like I said, every school I've been to, just I don't really see the point. It's pointless to me. So I'm sitting there, and I took this one class, the English class, and this teacher put blank pieces of paper in front of everybody. And she's like, all right, class, write. And everybody in the class just picks up their pens, and they start scribbling real fast, like reporters at a press conference or something. Start writing. I don't even know what they're writing. And of course, I'm not doing it. I'm just sitting there chilling, you know what I mean? And she comes over to me, and she's like, right. And now she's annoying me, right? So I'm like, you know, I'm 16. I'm like, yo, what you want me to write? You know, because that's the thing, right? We're used to this mode in school where it's like, what do you want me to write? And I will do that, right? It's like, it's all about obeying and compliance and shit. So I'm like, what you want me to write? She's like, write anything you want. You know, I didn't really believe her, right? I automatically thought that she was not being sincere. You know, people ask you sometimes, hey, how do you feel? And if you tell them how you really feel, then it's kind of a problem, you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't really want to know how you really feel, what's really going on. So I'm like, write whatever I want? She's like, yeah, write whatever you want. I'm like, cool, gotcha. Fuck school. That's what you got to say, you know what I mean? That was very liberating for me to write that, you know? And she looked at it, and she was like, good, now keep going. That kind of threw me for a loop. And I'm going to read you what happened next. I turn the page over. It's blank again. The blank page is the starter pistol that fires and triggers my mind to sprint. Damn, what will I write? What will I say? Will I write what I say? Say what I write? What about something funny? Maybe something serious? Something about my family? Something about Amir? How will I start? Whose story will I tell? My story, something made up? What about a story about a boy from Philly? A lost boy who wants to find himself, but doesn't know where to look. Who wants to tell his story, but doesn't know where to begin or end. Who searches anyway and discovers something about himself, about the world. I stare at the blank page, an ocean of white alive with possibility. I hear myself take a breath, then exhale deep like I just rose from underwater. It's like I'm at the free throw line again, foul shots, like the game is on the line again. I remember something my pop told me back in the day, shoot to make it. My hand's shaking now, trembling like it's freezing. Then it hits me. A silence louder than all the music I've ever heard in my life. All the light in the world in one beam before me. I grip the pen and something shoots down my spine. It sits me straight up. The pen feels heavy, like it's made of stone. At exactly which point do you start to realize that life without knowledge is... I stare deep into the blank page and see myself. I feel something I've never felt before. Purpose. I don't know what my exact purpose is yet, but I know it has something to do with this pen and this blank page. Shit, I am a blank page. Holding the pen this way, snug and firm in my fist, makes me feel like I can write my future. Like I can spell out my destiny in sharp strokes. The blank page begs me to tell a story. It dares me to tell one. One that's never been told before, and to tell it like it will never be told again. The blank page lights up a room in my heart that I didn't even know existed. And so the blank page, like I said, I started to see myself in it. I started to see endless possibilities. I started to feel like I was a screenwriter, but that the movie that I was writing was my life. And so it really gave me an incredible feeling of freedom. I like to express myself, and so the blank page was very attractive to me. And this was just the beginning, right? Blank page saved me. It saved my life. Blank page saved me. America enraged me. Then that bitch paid me. New slaves, old slavery. My grandma told me the streets far from holy. Now I'm lonely. My homies' bodies is holy. Oh, me. Sheesh. Cold-hearted departed before they even started. Young black lives disregarded. So gorgeous they ordered and we applauded. Matter of fact, we magna cum laude. But I come louder like I'm mixed with gunpowder. Ain't take but a minute to be man of the hour. Sega Genesis, Black Knight Nemesis. Act right, what's left, you ain't into this. Sailing right through rough waters, penmanship. Baby face, but I could never claim innocent. Shelton Ave, G-Town, brown tenements. Global warming, wonder where winter went. Ferguson, shout out to all my militants. And my young bucks on the grind, steady getting it. Gentlemen, but some days I get ignorant. And fuck the police, always my sentiment. So the blank page was the catalyst to save my life. So I started writing. Every day I started writing, writing. I told my teacher one day, she's like, you kind of like this writing thing, right? And I'm like, it's all right. You know, it's cool. Or whatever, you know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to let her know that I'm really feeling it. So, but I was. She's like, well, you know, if you want to be a good writer, you gotta be a good reader. She gave me a book. You know, I never heard of the book. I read it, came back. I'm like, yo, can I get another, you know what I mean, one of them, you know what I mean, Jones? She's like, well, read the, you know what I mean, the drawing I gave you. I'm like, yo, I read it. And she didn't believe me. I recited a little bit. I saw the best minds of my generation destroyed by madness, starving, hysterical, naked, dragging themselves to the Negro streets at dawn, looking for an angle to fix. Angel-headed hipsters and the starry dime of the night. He said, damn, you read that? I said, yeah, I read it. He said, all right. You know, I was like someone like in the desert looking for water. I found some water. I just drank, one gulp, you know what I mean? And I read that, and I started reading more, and one day I had an epiphany. I'll share my little epiphany I had with you. I said, oh, now I see why reading was illegal for black people during slavery. I discovered that I think in words. Because, you know, I always used to hear that. Like, the old people will tell you, like, you know, reading used to be illegal back during slavery. And you hear it, but you don't really hear it. You know what I mean? It's just like, whatever. And I started to really think about that. You know what I'm saying? Like we could be locked up together. You know what I'm saying? We in jail, we locked up, we in a clink. I'm like, yo, what you in here for? He's like, man, I was on chapter 8. Damn! You really got locked up for that? Like, that's crazy. Like, you got booked for a book. You know what I mean? And like, you really start to think about them. Like, why would they lock you up for reading? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you gotta have, like, you know, you gotta have a lookout when you have a book club. You got a book club when you got a lookout. Like, woo! You know what I mean? So it's like, you know, when you start thinking about it, like, why would it be illegal? It's powerful, right? That's why. And this is my realization. I discovered that I think in words. The more words I know, the more things I can think about. My vocab and thoughts grow together like the stem and petals of a flower. Reading was illegal because if you limit someone's vocab, you limit their thoughts. they can't even think of freedom because they don't have the language to. And so that became real powerful for me. Like, damn, like, if my vocabulary is limited, then my thoughts are limited. And I can't even conceive of what I can do and all these different possibilities. And so reading became connected to my own liberation. And I started doing that, and you know, it wasn't like a light switch where like that happened and then everything just kind of resolved itself. There were a lot of things that I still needed to resolve. When you read this book, you'll see that I was dealing with a lot of street people and a lot of people that didn't understand some of these things, and that, you know, I was in debt to them, and I had all types of things going on in the street that were endangering my life, endangering the lives of others. So it wasn't easy to just say, hey, I'm going to read a book now and all this goes away. But this was the spark that ignited me to change everything in my life, to surround myself with different people, and to really want more for myself, and really to start investing in myself and my own education. Again, not necessarily school, but education. And then sometimes that led to school, obviously. But really investing in my own education, you know. And so I talked a little bit about, in the beginning, I said buck now. I said young buck, buck wild, buck shots, buck town, slave buck, black buck, make buck, buck now. Well, what is buck now? I got locked up in this book. I got locked up, and I had an experience that I want to share with you real quick. The experience is, you know, I was sitting there in the 35th precinct, and this thing started coming to me. And I said, decisions lead to options, options to choices, choices to freedom. We all design our own reality. We write our own script, build our own house, or prison, or coffin. My name is Milo. I talked about that earlier, right? And Milo, I had an acronym for my name, Me Against Law and Order. That's what you know what I mean? Me Against Law and Order, Milo. Me Against Law and Order is about being a true rebel, pushing against the grain, making my own path, bucking the system. I think about this show I saw on the Nature Channel the other day about elephants, about how despite weighing up to 25,000 pounds and standing 13 feet tall, they can still be chained. How, I wondered? It starts when they're babies. Some asshole puts a metal chain attached to a wooden peg nailed into the ground around the baby elephant's foot. The baby elephant struggles but fails to break free and learns at that very moment never to struggle. That struggle is useless. Later on, even when the elephant can easily break free, it doesn't. I look around the 35th precinct at all of these sad, hard, gray, black faces and see nothing but elephants. So for me, bucking now and buck now, and that whole, what the undercurrent of this book is really about, is about bucking the traps. It's about bucking the stereotypes that are set up for us. It's about making your own path. It's about being a true rebel, right? Not just rebelling for the sake of rebelling, but rebelling with a purpose. You know what I mean? And rebelling to create your own destiny and designing your own reality. That's buck. You know what I'm saying? So that's what buck is for me. Thank you for listening. At this time, I want to take your questions. I want to take your comments. I want to make a quick announcement. My soundtrack for Buck comes out May 14th. It's free, absolutely free. So you can download it on my website. It'll be posted everywhere. I'm mkasante.com. I'm also on Twitter at mkasante, on IG at mkasante. I'm on Facebook, Asante MK. You can download it all those places. Follow me, ask questions, spread the movement, let people, you know what I mean, get bucked. You know, it's interesting because, I'm going to tell you, but it's interesting because it wasn't, when I look back at it now, the book was called Howl, H-O-W-L. And when I look back at it now, it was like a long poem by Allen Ginsberg. And what I loved about the poem is it started off with, I saw the best minds of my generation destroyed by madness. I was hooked, because that's what I saw. And this dude was writing in the 50s and 60s, and I'm like, but this is my reality. Starving, hysterical, naked, dragging themselves to the streets looking for an angry fix. I saw this stuff in my neighborhood, in my community, so it resonated with me. When I look back at it now, it's funny because it's like, yeah, it's cool now, but at that point, it grabbed me in a way that, you know, it really did. And then she gave me other writers that were in the Beat generation, like Jack Kerouac, On the Road. But what that did was it led me, you know, I didn't even know you could curse when you write, and I didn't know you could write about crazy shit, like the stuff they were writing about was, you know, drugs and sex and stuff like that. I was like, wow, you can write this stuff in a book in school, you know what I mean? So that intrigued me, you know, and then that led me to a whole bunch of other writers, like Amiri Baraka, for example, was probably one of the first black writers that I really connected with, and I found him through the Beat Generation writers. Like, oh wow, there's this black dude, this black dude in the Beat Generation named Leroy Jones, changed the name to Amiri Baraka. And then I discovered him. He actually became my mentor later on. And so did Maya Angelou. Me and Maya Angelou wrote a film together called The Black Candle. And I found writing mentors later on in life that really helped cultivate me as well, you know what I mean? But that was the first book. Like I said, how it popped and it resonated, yeah.
How did you start working with Amiri Baraka?
I didn't, you know, okay, I did actually work with him. I wrote an introduction for a book that he did called Our Flesh and Flames. But I met him at a poetry festival, actually. And it was right before he did this poem called Somebody Grew Up America. I introduced myself to him. I said, I'm a young poet, da-da-da-da-da. He said, where are your books at? Because I written my first, this book is my fourth book. So I had just written my first book at this time. And he said, where's your book at? And I said, oh, I don't have any copies on me. He said, I always have copies of your book on you. And he left. That's all he said to me. And then later on, I reached out to him. I saw him again or something. Oh, he came to an event that I had in Newark, New Jersey. And that's when I got his information. Then he was in all my films. I've made 3 films. He was in all my films that I did, documentaries. And we just developed a relationship. I wrote this introduction for his thing. And, you know, he just always gave me great insight and wisdom over the years, man. So that's how that developed. And both my mentors, Amiri Baraka and Auntie Maya Angelou, passed away last year. Yes.
How did your mom and your brother feel about putting her diary entries and his letters in your book?
My mom, you know, the crazy thing is it was my mom's idea. Like, I was working on this book. I told my mom, I remember my mom is like, she's an artist, she's a dancer, choreographer. And I trust my mom so much when it comes to art. I remember I called my mom one day, right? And all I said to her was, Buck. And she was like, yeah. She was like, yeah. I was like, you feeling it? She was like, yeah, I'm feeling it. I'm like, that's what's up. My mom, I trust her artistic judgment, you know what I mean? Because I was thinking, I had a whole bunch of whack title ideas before Buck, you know what I'm saying? And I wasn't really feeling them. And they were all just, I wasn't feeling any of them. And then when she said, yeah. So I said, anyway, so she knew I was working on the book. I told her, like, Mom, I'm just writing a real book. It's going to be real, like really real. And she's like, all right, you know, do your thing. So one day she called me and she said, and I was thinking, you know, and I just want to let you know, if you want to use my journal entries that you used to read, you can. And I was like, really? And she was like, yeah. Now, I was kind of feeling some type of way because I got in trouble, you know, for reading them back in the day. So I'm like, why would you want me to do that? And she said, you know, in the black community and communities of color, we don't talk about mental health issues. We don't talk about depression. We don't talk about suicide. We don't talk about these things. We act like they don't exist, but they do. They affect us every day. And she said, hopefully, by me putting myself out there, that this will inspire, encourage, uplift, show other people, give other people hope, give other people rays of light. So she felt like by her putting herself out there, it would help other people. And so she sacrificed her own kind of privacy, you know, for that. And that's why I say she's she's the strongest person I know. And so yeah, that's that. And my brother, oh, he was hyped. He was like, yo, you like, yo, because you know, it's like I said, I read, you know, he was excited to have his voice out there, you know what I mean, and to have, you know, like I said, non-fam, you know what I mean, new age militia, you know, Nubian apocalyptic military, niggas, Anglos, and Mexicans. That was his crew, and so the fact that he got his crew out there, he was happy about that, and also the wisdom that he shared with me while he was in jail was very profound. Yeah, I think dialogue is important. There's a taboo, and we gotta like kind of eliminate that taboo so that we can talk about it more openly and honestly. You know, I learned that, it's interesting. When I first started learning about mental health issues, I was probably like in college, really, because obviously I went through it all, but really learning about it, reading about it, studying it, researching it. And it's interesting coming from Philadelphia and going to a predominantly white school, university. Because I learned that, white kids, they tell you about all their mental health issues and every pill that they're taking, you know what I mean? Like, it's very open about it. Like, yeah, dude, I'm on this and I'm on that. I take this and that. I'm therapist on Thursday and this is and in my hood, it's like, yeah, it's all good. You know what I mean? Like, nobody really wants to talk about those things. And, I realized as I started studying mental health issues, I had an epiphany. Like, I realized that, damn, everybody I know growing up has a mental health issue. You know what I mean? Like, all the corner boys, like everybody. Like, and we self-medicate or whatever. We think it's all good, but it's really not. And so I think dialogue is one of the steps. And I think for me personally, writing is cathartic for me and therapeutic. You know what I mean? I think that's one of the ways that I've learned to heal and express myself. This is therapeutic for me, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I've been to every region of Africa, right? So I've been to North Africa, West Africa, East Africa, Southern Africa, and everywhere I go in Africa, it's that feeling like, welcome home, brother, you know what I'm saying? So I get that spirit, that energy. I learned so much in Africa, about we think sometimes, first of all, you learn to appreciate things. Learn how much we really have, how many opportunities we have, learn so much about the culture, about humanity, about how to really be a person and how to share with people and how to be giving and generous with your time and what you have. Some of the most valuable lessons I've learned have come from the continent. So, yeah, I feel like it's my home store. I feel connected to it. And, yeah, every time I go back, it's definitely that feeling, you know what I mean? And like I said, there's so much to teach and so much to learn. So yeah, definitely. It's always a spiritual thing going on when I go there. My greatest influence as a writer, man, that's hard. I don't know who my greatest singular influence is. I have a lot of different influences. So like I said, I'm in like the Beat Generation writers. They were like kind of the first that I was introduced to, and they affected me in the beginning. Then the Black Arts Movement writers. So people like Sonia Sanchez and Charles Fuller and Amiri Baraka, and these people also shaped, Ted Hughes. They shaped my foundation. Then I started getting into other kinds of writing. First of all, when I did the Beat Generation stuff, I also wanted to find out. I always wanted to find out who my favorite writers liked. So if I like a writer, well, who do they like? You know what I'm saying? And so then I find out, okay, so I read people like, I have a passage in here from Walt Whitman where he talks about not taking your hat off. But Leaves of Grass influenced me, and some passages from Leaves of Grass really, like, I would get tatted on me for real. You know what I mean? There's writers, then I started getting to experimental writers like Italo Calvino and Umberto Eco. And I like the way that they play with language. And like that's why if you read Buck, it's like, I'm playing with language, and I'm experimenting with language and doing different things, and then another huge foundation, that's why it's in this book, is the writers of hip hop. Because a lot of times we think of rappers as just rappers, but if you're a hip hop artist and you're a true hip hop artist, you're a poet. And if you're a true poet, you're a writer, right? And if you're a true writer and a poet, that's literary. So some of my influences also are Nas is like the Afrocentric Asian, half man, half man. Nas and some of the Tupac, those are also writers to me and people that kind of help my foundation. So I'm all over the place, with my influences, you know what I mean? But so I don't feel like one person. My mom, you heard her journal entries. My mom is a writer, you know what I'm saying? Like her writing is eloquent, exquisite, beautiful. So she's a poet. So, I'm influenced by a lot of different writers. Yeah, my older sister, who I haven't mentioned today, but she's in the book. Her letter, I forgot to mention, her letter, she has one letter in the book. My older sister suffers from schizophrenia, and so it's real interesting because, and that's why I said the book is kind of deals with mental health issues. Her schizophrenia actually helped me as a critical and analytical thinker. Because people say like, oh, your sister she hears things. She sees things that don't exist. But then I wonder to myself, like, maybe we have the problem because we can't see or hear that stuff. You know what I'm saying? Who's to say? You know, like what? Because we don't hear what she hears, it doesn't exist? That sounds kind of arrogant. So I think that helped me as a critical thinker at a young age, because I used to actually ask that question. Like, maybe it's us with the problem. Since she's seeing it, clearly she's seeing it. You know what I'm saying? She's describing these things. So I think that's one thing. I think it also just made me sensitive to, like, the world and people, different perspectives. You know what I mean? I think it gave me a unique sense of humor, because sometimes I think it's funny. You know what I'm saying? Like, some of the stuff she says isn't right. So, you know, it's kind of a unique sense of humor. But she, she's, and she wasn't really, you know, the reason why I didn't mention her today, or there's only one letter in the book, I've only met my sister, I can probably count on one hand, maybe two hands. But I haven't spent a lot of time with her, so she didn't have like she didn't grow up with me in the same house. She actually grew up in California, in Anaheim, California. So, you know, and she's my sister on my dad's side, not my mom. So, you know, it wasn't like, she wasn't a huge influence in my life. But like I said, the things that I did mention, those were kind of like influences. Do I smoke weed to just yeah, I mean, yes.
And have you been in an addiction center?
An addiction center? No. Never been in an addiction
So
center.
how can you get rid of this melody? This is a difficult problem, drug addiction.
Yeah, drug addiction, I agree. I think, especially when you get into heroin and crack and coke and other drugs and meth, my mom doesn't think smoking weed is a drug. My brother doesn't think smoking weed is a drug. I think my family doesn't really look at weed as a drug. So yeah, I smoked weed since I was 13 years old.
Yes, so who helped you to get rid of this melody?
The melody, the illness.
Melody, a big problem.
Oh,
A big mental health issue.
I mean, who helped me?
Yeah, because this needs help.
I agree. I agree that addiction is needs help.
Yeah.
Are you saying from weed though? Yes. Oh, nobody helped me. I still need help, man.
I have a question for you. You talk about before that you're a professor. I'm trying to follow you with your play of language. Are you an actual professor in an educational institution? Or are you a professor just amongst people that you hang out with and people that you travel with? So can you tell us about how you profess with various groups of people?
Okay, yeah, I'm actually both, which is really unique. I'm a tenured professor at Morgan State University, which is in Baltimore, Maryland. I'm in the English department. I teach creative writing, screenwriting, filmmaking. I teach a class called It's Bigger Than Hip Hop, which is based on my third book, which is called It's Bigger Than Hip Hop. And I'm also a professor in the hood.
On that. Okay, so you graduated from where exactly? Did you graduate from?
Yeah, so
You got your degree from where?
I went to, for undergrad, I went to Lafayette College, and then I spent a year at the University of London School of Oriental and African Studies. And that was a very profound year. One of my recommendations to all of you is if you have a chance to go abroad, get out the country, do anything, take that chance, because it opens up your whole worldview. And so I studied at the University of London. I came back to America and went to graduate school at UCLA, School of Film and Television. And I got my MFA in screenwriting. And so UCLA was my last, that's why I went to graduate school at. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Do you feel, have you ever felt like identified, or can you relate your struggles and your experiences with other communities? Like I as a Mexican, I know the struggles of my people in my country here in this country. Do you feel like it can be correlated with another?
And not only can it be correlated, it has to be correlated. It has to be correlated. You know, the reason why is because the more I've traveled, the more I realize the unification, that we are one. That's why, you know, when I remember when I was marching, when I was at UCLA and we were marching, you know, they were trying to pass that law at that time that would basically disrupt, you know, communities, right? A lot of Mexican American communities. And I remember marching and we was, El Pueblo Unido, jamás será vencido. And the crazy part is, I didn't know what that meant. but I knew what it meant. You feel me? people united can never be divided. I would never say that because I didn't know, but I knew the spirit and I felt the spirit. We were fighting for freedom. We were marching for freedom, and I was down. And so the more I've traveled the world, the more I see that we are one, and that we have to have that correlation. We have to support each other. You know what I'm saying? So definitely. Yes.
So you might have a request.
Okay. Oh, okay.
But my question, because I haven't heard you speak of this, is what would you say to these young people about marriage and family?
Find someone who compliments you and love them. Find somebody who makes you better. You know what I'm saying? Find somebody who makes you better as a person, who strives for you to do better. You know what I'm saying? And love them and be loved. In terms of how low I felt like death might be better. I felt like how my mom felt a lot of times when she was making those stockpiles, when she was taking 50, 60 pills at a time. You know what I'm saying? I felt like that, like, fuck it. You know what I'm saying? Because I didn't have, at that time, any hope, I guess, right? It was, and I didn't see the light, you know? And so it was just like, whatever, at that point. In Philadelphia, you have a huge Muslim community. A lot of dudes, some of it's actually related to the prison industrial complex. Dudes going to jail, they come out, everybody comes out, everybody gets Muslim in jail. You know what I'm saying? Then when they come out, they're not Muslim. But it's a big part of our community. So my homie's chain said Allah on it, said Allah in Arabic. And the way it works in Philly is, if somebody finds out that you're Muslim, they won't do anything to you. So these guys who were robbing me, they were Muslim. And they were telling me to take off all my shit or whatever, and they saw my chain. And they were like, "Are you Muslim?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then they were like, "Give him his shit back, yo." And they're like, "Salam alaikum." And that was out. And so, I always admired the brotherhood, though, you know what I'm saying, that they had in Philly. And when I was young, I went through a lot of different spiritual journeys. I took my shahada, right? I went to churches and tried to figure out, I was trying to search for something. I talked to the Buddhist dudes and talked to the Hebrew Israelites and talked to the Nuwapians and all these people trying to find and search for answers, And so, yeah, that was a spiritual moment. But I think it wasn't obviously just that moment. That moment reminded me of Amir. It reminded me that when you see me up here today, you're not just seeing MK, Asante, or Malo. You're seeing Amir. You're seeing my brother Uzi, Uwa, Uzito, Wap the Culture, Cool D, Pitch P. You're seeing that. You're seeing D-Rock. You're seeing Bone. You're seeing all these people who don't have a chance to be here for whatever reason. I got homies doing 60, 80 years in jail. I got homies that are not here in life anymore. So when you see me, you're seeing all of them. And I think that moment reminded me that Amir's not here. You know what I mean? But I'm still here. I at least have a chance. So, yeah.
Okay, we can't have any more questions because of time. And he's going to perform a piece for you. And then you'll be able to leave. But before you do, I want you to know that he is here because this woman over here, the king of my
It's hard too.
Some amazing students worked extremely hard to make this happen in 1 month, just for you. All things are possible. So he's going to close out with an amazing piece called Two Sets of Notes.
All right. And this piece, Two Sets of Notes, I wrote this a long, long time ago when I was coming out of high school. You guys ever be in a class and you just feel like what you're learning is not really true? Some bullshit. Basically some bullshit. Like Columbus discovered America. Even though there's people here already. So this piece I wrote, like I was feeling like that, right, when I wrote this piece. It's called Two Sets of Notes. It's not just about school, because you can apply this to life, everything. But this is it. It goes, I find myself feeling, damn, as if I'm touching the ground and the ceiling. In schools that don't engage in healing, They simply open the wounds and entrap us in rooms where we are consumed by hypocrisy. But damn, hold up. Even Greek philosophers weren't the authors of their own philosophies. And the statues on campus be watching me, Washington, Jefferson, clocking me, as if to say my time is up. But shit, I don't run laps on track, see? I run laps around the scholars of tomorrow because they knew schools of thought. Shit, merely our history is borrowed. And then they label me militant and black national radical. Yo, they tried to put my learning process on sabbatical. But I don't apologize. I spit truth into those eyes that have been infected by those lies. Then they try to get me to see their point of view from a cat that looked like me, but he don't walk like me, talk like me, or act like me. And homie started running when I asked if he was black like me. Mastering their thoughts and forgetting our own, and you wonder why we always feel alone. From the media to academia, hanging brothers like coats. That's why in they schools, I always take 2 sets of notes. One set to ace the test, and the other set I call the truth. And when I find those historical contradictions, I use that first set as proof that black youth's minds are being polluted, convoluted, diluted, not culturally rooted in anything except the Western massacre. That's why most of us, when we was in school, we were scared of Africa. We viewed our mother's land through the eyes of racists like David Hume and Immanuel Kant, not knowing Immanuel Kant tell me anything about a land he's never seen, a land rich with history, beautiful kings and queens. But they had us believe otherwise. The history they taught us, built on high-rise lies. They didn't teach us that the pyramids were completed before Greece and Rome was conceptualized. Then they tried to claim the Egyptians' race was a mystery. And I used to believe them till I went to Egypt, read Herodotus, book 2 of the histories. Can it be any clearer? Black students, look in the mirror. You are a reflection of divinity. Don't let them fool you with selective memory. Walk high, listen to the elders who spoke. Black students, brown students, all students, always take 2 sets of notes. And I'm out.